Whoever must play cannot play. If you are feeling stuck and impatient with your music practice, if you have done everything by the book, you've practiced slowly, you broke pieces down into small chunks, you followed solid advice and flawlessly executed a particular method or technique, but you have grown very tired of hitting the wall, this video is about Plateau and Impatience, and I want to offer you a different perspective on your personal journey. One that boils down to 3 concepts from 3 books, all pointing in the same direction, rooted in self-image, that private, often unconscious story you carry about what you are capable of, and in focusing on the wrong target. So if you can relate to the 2 scenarios on the screen, I want to say it plainly. Plateau and Impatience are not in the music that you practice. There is nothing wrong with your hands, your head, your age either. Perhaps it's something about the way you think and approach the process, something you believe about yourself to be true when it isn't, or when it gets in the way. Being stuck and being impatient is what happens when a person is trying to develop as a musician, which is an infinite process, while putting themselves inside a container that demands finite results on a finite timeline. Of course, there is a nuance. Professional performing musicians have to find their inner peace and balance while navigating exactly this kind of framework. But let this quote from James Carse sit with you. Finite games can be played within an infinite game, but an infinite game cannot be played within a finite game. A professional musician preparing for a concert is participating in a shared finite game within the scope of their infinite vocation. And that's one of the ways to approach it so that it remains sustainable. If you are a serious music practitioner, but not a professional with external deadlines, this mindset applies to you 10 times more. I have talked about Transurfing over the past few months, and here's how one of the concepts applies to today's topic. You know, that method, that advice you've been following with increasingly diminishing results and increasing frustration, it has probably become your energy-draining pendulum. If you have done everything by the book and you focus enormously on the execution, well, first of all, you likely practicing, not practice playing music. But practically speaking, you either need to fine-tune your execution of the method or you need to try a different one. With the abundance of good information in the books, on the internet, on this platform, other communities, the worst thing you can do is place too much fixation, too much importance on one particular thing, on one particular way, especially when you have already found it isn't effective or efficient for the way you learn. So, paraphrasing Zeland, if we keep standing an inch from the wall, trying to push through it with more effort, more commitment, the wall will keep pushing back stronger, and we will stay oblivious to the unlocked door just 3 feet to the side. In the last video, I talked about Hermann Hesse. Today, 60 pages later, I actually finished the chapter on Heiterkeit. I have a few sentences to read to you, and then a question. In my version, it's on page 316. Perhaps the poet whose verses gladden us was a sad solitary, and the musician a melancholic dreamer. But even so, their work shares in the cheerful serenity of the gods and the stars. What they give us is no longer their darkness, their suffering or fears, but a drop of pure light, eternal cheerfulness. So, if works of art are essentially artifacts of this cheerful serenity, this Heiterkeit I mentioned in the last video, how lucky are we to be able to touch them with our own hands, experience them with our ears, and possibly share that experience with others. So regardless of your age and regardless of your skill level, I have a strong recommendation for your next time at the instrument or making music otherwise. Regardless of your struggles and regardless of your frustrations, play something that doesn't take you any effort for just a moment and listen to the sound. It may be just one note, maybe one bar, maybe one phrase, if you're a pianist, one hand or both hands. But then remind yourself, every time you touch music, you have an opportunity to treat yourself to this pure light of eternal cheerfulness. If via practicing you reduce that kind of experience to rigorously executing the right movements and fixing the wrong notes, this is not why music exists. So, if you're still with me, as a summary, James Carse and Hermann Hesse remind us that we are engaged in a profoundly infinite, endless practice. Reducing that to finite, egocentric milestones is a mismatch between what the practice actually is and how you can serve the music so it could serve you as well. And then reality transurfing provides a methodology, at least one of the concepts, for examining your method of practicing. Often to see the solution, you need to step back and ask whether it's actually, the solution is actually where you have been convinced it is located. And in the end, there is likely nothing technically wrong with the solid, good practicing advice you've been following that led you to being stuck. But there are nuances that get overlooked when we focus only on the facade of technical or mental execution. For example, slow practice or striving toward automated finger movements. These are great, but one can be a waste of time and the other one can be actually restraining if we miss the nuance. I will talk more about that in the next video when I will sit at the piano and walk you through my own recent experience of being stuck in a few pieces that I'm working on right now. Until then, be curious, be playful. Slava Ukraini!